I cannot believe how shocking Plymouth were, Justin.
They were really bad. They were so passive out of possession. Plymouth just had nothing to offer.
The defenders didn't look like they've ever played with each other before. I just don't know what the game plan was. 4-0, I think, actually flattered Plymouth quite considerably. And there's going to be a common theme to this episode, and that is, it is only one game. It's something which may come up quite a few times in this episode. And, you know, we've been doing this for 6 seasons now, haven't we? Never fails to amaze me how many fans lose their heads after just one game of the season, Justin.
Yeah, there'll be some fans who argue that I lost my head after the Derby result on Friday. And maybe I did lose my head a little bit, but rightly so. And we will get onto that later on in the show. But I think it's a lot of a lot of trepidation, a lot of enthusiasm. It just comes out over pre-season. You get one game out of the way, and then it's just like, oh, we're doomed, and then or it's like, oh my god, we're going to win promotion. There were a lot of fans with two contrasting feelings going into the next game.
Yeah. I'm forecasting a lot of appearances of the words marathon and sprint today. That's all I'll say on that. But Justin, we're here to talk about the weekend's action in the Championship. Of course, it was the opening weekend, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go through all the games from the Championship this past weekend, talk about some of the big news from the past few days as well. Finish off with the polls. And that's today's second tier episode. But before we kick off, we have some second tier Jameson shirts to give away. First of all, on Monday, we announced our season-long partnership with Jameson. And to celebrate, we gave 2 lucky winners the chance to win a pair of second tier shirts each. We're pleased to announce that Mark and Todd are our winners, so congratulations to Mark and Todd. Please check your inboxes on Instagram and X, and we'll get those shirts posted to you. 2 beautiful second-tier Jameson shirts will be coming your way very soon, and we'll be running plenty more competitions throughout this season with some great prizes, so watch this space. But let's go around the grounds, Justin, and we'll kick things off with Portsmouth, who managed to run out of Elland Road with a point on their return to the Championship. They drew 3-3 with Leeds in a crazy game. 3-word reviews. If you're new this season, we get supporters to chime in with their 3-word reviews on Twitter and our Patreon. For Leeds, Out of Context Football Manager says somehow didn't win. Keeley says typical Leeds United. Trent says crossbar 3 times. For Portsmouth, Ben on the Patreon says what a day. David says never back down. Sasha says proud of us. Scott says we are back. Justin, this game was ridiculous, wasn't it? Absolutely mad.
But what a game. What a game. It was chaotic. There was times where the sun was shining or it was hacking it down with rain. It was, all of the dramatic fallacies were coming out. It was end-to-end as well. And it was a great return for Portsmouth into the Championship. And it was even a great performance from Leeds, I thought, apart from the moments where they switched off. But as a spectacle, this is what it's all about. This is what we do the podcast for. This is what people chime into the podcast for. This is what people want to dig into when they come across the Championship. Ridiculous 3-3 games where the crossbar takes an absolute hammering, more so than the net at times. It was a crazy game, but as I say, what a game.
Yeah. Advert for the Championship. It was a great one, wasn't it? I assumed when Leeds went 1-0 up after 10 minutes that would be it. It would just be an easy afternoon for Daniel Farker's boys. But then Pompey equalised. Then Callum Long scored a beauty just before half-time. And it made you wonder whether the nerves may kick in for Leeds. But then Willie Gnonto scored right at the start of the second half. And again, I just expected Leeds to go on and win it from there. But then the second half goes on and on. Leeds are getting more and more frustrated. And then out of nowhere, Portsmouth get a last-minute penalty after a stupid foul from Jayden Bogle, who had a debut to forget. And Portsmouth score it. Then Leeds get a 94th minute equaliser through Brendan Harrison. And then Brendan Harrison had an absolute sitter, which he drags wide right at the death. Just bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. But it was such amazing entertainment. Overall, Justin, Portsmouth had just 5 shots, conceded 22, had their own crossbar hit 3 times, and nearly won. Football is back, baby.
Football is back. Smash and grab comes to mind a little bit. Or does it count when it's a draw? But
is it really a smash and grab when they've scored 3 times? That's a lot of smashes and a lot of grabs.
Yeah, it's smash, grab, go. That's what it was. It was. It's just one of those occasions where you just can't really expect, or you don't really expect anything like that to happen. As I say, I didn't expect Portsmouth to score 3 goals, but let alone or score a goal. Sorry, let alone 3. But they took their moments brilliantly. The composure of the penalty from Callum Lang for starters. I mean, his banger's a banger. You can hit a shot really well at times, and sometimes that it flies wide or goes over. But then the Sorensen goal as well was wonderful. Marlon Pack's pass was brilliant, and Sorensen took his chance well. So they were really composed when they needed to be, and obviously Will Norris had the game of his life to make sure they went back to Fratton Park with at least a point.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Portsmouth. They rode their luck a bit, and Leeds should have won, but they defended excellently. The second half, in particular, they were just phenomenal at the back. Really restricted Leeds to very little, bar obviously the 2 goals and a chance for Matteo Joseph, like halfway in between them. In between the 2 goals, there wasn't much apart from that Joseph chance. I thought Conor Shaughnessy was exceptional. He really stood out for me. Marlon Pack, his assist for the first goal was superb.
So glad you brought it up.
So good, Justin. But yeah, he ran the game in the middle of the park. And then Callum Lang really impressed me as well. Obviously got the 2 goals, but he struggled in the Championship the last time he was with Wigan, wasn't he? So whether he'd be able to make the step up or not, I wasn't too sure. But he looked really good here. So a very encouraging first game back for Pompey. And it looks like Portsmouth mean business just in this season.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will mean business. You leave a few bruises on Leeds like they did. It's a side that don't really have anything to fear. It's quite easy saying that on the opening day when you're going away to Elland Road, but they showed Championship quality when they needed to. And as I say, that pass from Marlon Pack to Sorensen for the first goal was genuinely beautiful. It was so good. And you're relying on moments like that quite often, especially for Portsmouth, when you're not going to have those moments as often as other sides do. We saw in the first half, we saw even before Leeds took their penalty, scored their penalty. Portsmouth wrote that look, but they were bedding themselves into a new league against a really good side who came out the blocks really quick. Obviously hitting the bar 3 times in the first half was ridiculous from Leeds. But as I say, you ride your luck in away games, and Portsmouth did that, and they took the moments. As I say, they were clinical not only in those chances but in the moments. They seized them. And that's what you got. That's what you got to do when you've got a horrendous run of games against the big hitters in the Championship.
Yeah, we have mentioned that opening first 7 games quite a lot, haven't they? It's absolutely rotten, but they would take anything that they can get their hands on. So a point away at Elland Road, not a bad way to start things off, is it? So a really good first game for Portsmouth back in the Championship, and it's been a great week overall, Justin, because Matt Ritchie is back at Fratton Park as well. 13 years after leaving his hometown club, he's back on the South Coast, and I just love things like this, Justin. Players going back to the club where they started it all after having a fairly illustrious career elsewhere. As illustrious as it can get for Matt Ritchie, I suppose.
He's coming back with arguably, a much better player than when he left, because not only has he got a wealth of experience, a wealth of playing in the Premier League, and he was in and around the squad for Newcastle in the Champions League, but he comes back with a HGV licence as well, which how many players can you really say do that? He's furthered himself more than any other footballer I think I've known.
I was going to say, I thought he's packed in football now. It was just focusing on driving lorries now, but apparently not. Yeah, I'm not sure how much he's going to play this season, because he is 34 now. He's
going to drive the team bus.
Yes. It all makes sense now. That's why he's been signed up. Yeah, he is 34 now. Only played 120 minutes in the league for Newcastle last season, but it's a nice little swan song for him, isn't he? Because I think he's always wanted to go back to Portsmouth, because he thought he had a bit of unfinished business there. So, yeah, at this late stage in his career, nice to see what he can do for his hometown club. How concerned should we be about Leeds after this, Justin? It is just one game, marathon, not a sprint, etc. But did you look at this game and think they could be suffering from the jips a little bit?
No, I'm not concerned at all. I think it was a case of them being let down by errors at key times, moments in which they stopped concentrating. I mean, you look at the Sorensen goal, Messier beating far too easily at his near post. And the marking on Sorensen.
It wasn't even his near post, really. It just went through him, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, a goalkeeper. Shots that go through goalkeepers present a problem, because goalkeepers are primarily there to stop shots from going into the back of the goal. I don't need to explain a very simple role for people. But also, as well as that, I think the marking on Sorensen was quite poor as well. Look, the Callum Lang first goal was a banger. defensive lapse from Jayden Bogle for the penalty. And then Will Norris, as I mentioned, for Portsmouth in goal, had an immense game, making save after save. I think he made 7 saves overall. Then you got Leeds hitting the bar. They created enough chances to win the game. They created enough chances to win 3 games. I think it was just a case of first day sluggishness, not quite snappy, not quite on it. And they were punished, unfortunately, by a very enthusiastic team who were very up for it. I think that was the thing.
Yeah, I don't think we should be too worried, because if ultimately at the end of the day, if Brendan Harrison puts away that sitter right at the end, we'd be sat here right now talking about a Leeds win and how they managed to get over the line despite all the adversity. So I'm not too worried either. They created so many great chances, as we say. They hit the bar 3 times and missed a series of other big chances. So it's not great that they conceded 3 goals, but even then, as you say, the Meslier one, he should have saved. The second's a worldie. The third is a moment of madness from Bogle to give away the penalty. So I get you can do this with essentially every team where you overanalyse each goal, but Leeds aren't going to have mad games like this every single week, are they? So I think the only concern really would be is the chances that they missed, because they had at least 3 gilt-edged chances that didn't put away, and that's not even counting some of the ones where they hit the bar, for example. So as long as they're creating them, that's the main thing, isn't it? And if they were to play like this every week, they'd probably still be very much in the conversation for going up, I think.
Yeah, I know, without a shadow of a doubt. You look at the Bielsa team, who were guilty of missing quite a few chances. On more than a number of games, they created a shed load of chances, but they would miss them. And I think that's going to be the same thing here. They're going to be a side that do miss chances, but they're going to be a side that create them as well. Yeah, I think if I look at this, if you look at some of the positives of the game, I thought Wilfred Gnonto on the left gave Leeds really good balance. I think it looked imbalanced at times, almost a one-man team with Somerville on the left, but with Gnonto there, they look really good. He's in his best position. I thought Brendan Harrison as well took his goal brilliantly. I know he had a big moment and he missed it at the end, but I think the goal will still give him confidence, and Leeds need bodies who are up for it in the attacking third, essentially. But he took his goal well. So there are probably more positives to take out of this game than there are negatives from a Leeds perspective. We've gone through them already.
Yeah, I think you're right, which is strange, isn't it, considering they've just got a point against a newly promoted side at home. No disrespect to Portsmouth intended there, but I do think there are more positives to take from this, which is quite strange. I suppose another concern would be that you look at how we keep talking about who's going to be at Leeds come the end of the transfer window, and this game was sort of a microcosm of those concerns, because Gnonto start the second half, gets the ball in a fairly innocuous position, dribbles past 2 players, puts it in the bottom corner. He's created something out of nothing. If he doesn't pull something like that out of the bag, Leeds may have been lucky to get anything from this game at all. And look, Daniel Farke teams rely on individual brilliance, as we saw with Crescencio Somerville last season, where Leeds haven't been playing very well. Somerville pulls a worldie out of his arse, and here Gnonto stepped up in that situation as well, but he's also expected to leave. So once he's gone, who do you look to next if Gnonto isn't there? I mean, Ruta, maybe, but I don't think he's good enough for shooting to be that guy. And that's the issue in it, really, isn't it, Justin, with Leeds? Like, who's going to be the guy when Leeds are, banging against the door and struggling to knock it down? Who's going to be the one who stands up above the crowd and make themselves known? So that's a concern. It'll be interesting to see who Leeds bring in before the transfer window closes, because we know players are going to go, but they've also been with a fair few players coming in as well. Let's go from Elland Road to Hillsborough, and it was a disastrous start for Wayne Rooney at Plymouth. His side were thumped 4-0 by Sheffield Wednesday this Sunday afternoon. I suppose the only disappointment for Wednesday is that they didn't score more, Justin. They genuinely could have won this by 6 or 7-0, couldn't they? Maybe even more than that. It was so unbelievably one-sided. And look, we'll get onto Plymouth in a bit, but I was so impressed with Danny Rule's side. Yeah,
they were magnificent. They were really, really good. I don't want to dog down Plymouth a little, too much, but how good of an opposition were they for Wednesday on opening day remains to be seen, but you can only beat who's in front of you. That's the age-old cliche. And Wednesday really did put Plymouth to the sword and then some. And you rightly said, they could have scored more. They created chance after chance after chance. But the composure in which they had in creating those chances is what took me aback. They weren't taking half chances or pot shots. They were getting into really, really good areas. And and putting themselves in these good positions. It was a brilliant result, a brilliant performance, and it was just super exciting. They took a lot of risks. They were measured risks, and I think that's what impressed me the most. They weren't a side who looked remotely comfortable at times playing with the ball, especially in the first 10 games of last season. But compare that to this season, good coaching really does get you somewhere, and Danny Rowe has delivered that. They were really, really good.
It's a great start to the Rowevolution, isn't it, Justin?
There we go.
It's a great start. We actually have a Wednesday fan on the Discord who we were chatting to this afternoon who was salivating at the mouth at how well they were playing. And I don't blame him at all. Wednesday, not only did they win this so comfortably, they were playing some really nice football as well. The first goal is come from, it started off with the goalkeeper and they've worked their way all the way up the pitch and ended up in the Plymouth net. But not just that, so like the different interchanges they were doing, it was really good. Considering Wednesday last season when Danny Rowe came in, they were quite direct, weren't they? But this just seemed like completely revolutionised. Oh
my God, I knew that was coming.
Plenty of individuals stood out as well. I was very impressed with the new signings. Fancy Ingelsson in midfield. He looks like a really good player. Anthony Masaba was so dangerous throughout the whole game. Gassama on the other wing as well was really, really good. Josh Windass, Jamal Lowe. Could go through the whole team, to be honest, because everyone was just superb in a Wednesday shirt. And they've done it without the new striker in Ike Ugbo as well, haven't they? We kept saying Wednesday need to sign a striker, but this didn't look like an issue for them in this showing, apart from maybe them scoring more from the abundance of chances they created. I'd go as far to say Wednesday were the team I was most impressed by over this opening weekend. Justin, would you agree?
I would maybe, we'll get into something, but I'd maybe go with Oxford. They really did impress me, but Wednesday, I think in terms of the transferring of being that direct side, needing to be that direct side to what they played today, or the style of football they played against Plymouth, it really was a huge transition and a huge change. And as I say, I think it's down to the quality of coaching and the intelligence and the vision that Danny Rowe has. It's very clear. It's very, very obvious what he wants to achieve. Long may it continue.
Yeah. He's a top coach, isn't he? That's becoming more and more evident by the day. But the fact that he's now changed up Wednesday from this team who were so dreadful 12 months ago into this silky, lovely team to watch who, as we say, could have maybe got double figures against Plymouth. That's just unbelievable, isn't it? He continues to just really impressed me, and if this is a sign of things to come with Sheffield Wednesday this season, then my oh my, what a season it's going to be for them. We mentioned Danny Rowe, we also mentioned Ike Ugbo. There was an interesting way that they announced that signing this week. Danny Rowe was doing his usual press conference before the game, and then there was a knock at the door. In walked Ike Ugbo, who hadn't been announced by that point, but that's how they essentially unveiled him. And what it led to was one of the most awkward exchanges I think I've ever seen from a player and manager, Justin.
I mean, it was very obvious it was pre-planned, wasn't it? I
think you should have told Ike Ugbo that, because I'm not sure he had any idea. To be fair, Rowe, he was doing all the hard work there. He tried his best to make this look good. Ike Ugbo looked like he had no idea where he was.
I think the issue we have with it is Danny Rowe spent far too long on a training ground and not enough time practicing, rehearsing this announcement. More for Rowe, because it could have been a really special announcement, one that we remember for all the right reasons, but he said we're going to remember it for all the wrong reasons, and that is the awkward exchange. It's funny nonetheless, it is great, but Danny Rowe, I think Danny Rowe maybe let the side down a little bit. No, I completely disagree. I think he did his bit. It's Ugbo who let the side down here. Rowe, when you watch it again, he did all right. He tried to make it passable, but Ugbo was just completely off guard. The great debate.
Like, I have no idea who this man is, which is so strange considering he was there last season. Right, Justin, let's talk Plymouth. Christ alive, this was shocking, wasn't it? Not a good start for No Fear Football version 2. One of our Patreons, Ryan, in the Discord, I love this, he said it's not No Fear Football version 2, it's Fear Football. And that pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? Because I cannot believe how shocking Plymouth were, Justin.
They were really bad. They were really bad. I mean, where to start with them? They were so passive out of possession. I know we've waxed lyrical on Wednesday and how good they were, but like I was alluding to, it's I don't think Plymouth offered too much in terms of press, in terms of organisation and structural integrity of their shape. Wednesday got through them several times very, very easily and simply. Although you can put that down to liquid football from the Owls, but nonetheless, Plymouth just had nothing to offer. There was a stat that came on 60 minutes in. It just basically detailed all the shots, all the touches in the box. Wednesday had 16 shots. Plymouth had 2. Argyle didn't look threatening at all. That was after an hour.
Just did you want to hear the full-time stats?
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday 30 shots. Plymouth 5.
It's just not good. It's just not good.
I
think this sort of lends into my theory that maybe Plymouth lack a little bit of identity since old Stephen Schumacher left. It's
if only they had a manager who spent all summer trying to implement his new style. If only that was the case, Justin.
But you are right. You are right. I think there's. I mean, what sort of football does Wayne Rooney want to play? That's another thing. I think a lot of people
look football, Justin.
No fear football, as we said. I think a key thing we need to sort of actually bring to the surface here is Wayne Rooney's side relied heavily. I say Wayne Rooney's side. His Derby team relied very, very heavily on the individual quality and set pieces. So Tom Lawrence got Derby out of jail quite a lot. You can look at the underlying data if you want to come at me with any kickback. But his teams weren't built around a philosophy. They were built around getting good players in good areas and them doing the business. And I don't think Plymouth have those type of they've got Morgan Whittaker, but he didn't look inspired in this game, which is what worries me. And if you're gonna get those moments from players, they need to look inspired, and he didn't.
Yeah, they had 5 shots, but all those shots were just hopeful punts from distance, really. It was... They offered absolutely nothing going forwards and were just all over the place at the back. I cannot believe how shocking they were at the back. I mean, Plymouth were bad at the back last season anyway, but it looks like they've made absolutely no progress at all here. It looks like the defenders didn't look like they've ever played with each other before. And the game plan, we talk about them only having 5 shots, I just don't know what the game plan was. Because every time they got the ball, they would just instantly lose it. It didn't look like there was any sort of, working together to try and move your way up the pitch. It was just so bizarre. We didn't have high expectations for Rooney and Plymouth this season anyway. I've seen a few people say they could stay up, and that may still very well happen. But as far as first games go, this was worse than I feared it possibly could be. Because this was so shocking. On another day, it could have been a completely different scoreline, and 4-0 I think actually flattered Plymouth quite considerably. So a very, very concerning first showing for Wayne Rooney's Plymouth, and if this is a sign of things to come, then my oh my, I don't know how long he's going to last.
To compound the game and the result as well, I think it was the kit man had spelt Adam Forshaw's name wrong.
He
on
did,
the back of his shirt, which just to make it look even worse, even just a little bit. That was one of the
It says a lot when even the kitman's having a bad day, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was Plymouth's Sunday afternoon, pretty much in a nutshell, really, isn't it? Justin, let's go to Oxford. They were victorious in their first second-tier game in 25 years. They beat Norwich 2-0. 3-word reviews for Oxford. The Flitch says proved them wrong. Lee says, well, actually, he only needed one word. He says easy. And Travis for Norwich says piss poor performance. Nick says didn't really bother. I was very impressed by Oxford, Justin. This was surprisingly comfortable for them. When I say surprising, that's no slight against Oxford. It's more because Norwich are a good side. Mm-hmm. But this was almost as comfortable as 2-0 wins go, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really, really was comfortable. And again, you asked me if Sheffield Wednesday were the team that impressed me the most over the weekend. No, it was Oxford. It was Oxford because in terms of that comfortability, they nullified every single threat that Norwich offered. In Norwich just didn't look like they were going to get anywhere near to the Oxford goal. And I don't think that's down to Norwich being really poor. Don't get me wrong, they were poor. But Oxford, how organised they were, how structured they were, made them look really average. They made them look very, very average. They gave no avenue to attack. And they just had nothing to offer. I barely felt they were in the game. And when their chances came and their moments came, they took them. I mean, Mark Harris bullying Grant Hanley, he got his reward. I tweeted this as well, actually, because it did really make me laugh, is the fact that Andy Hinchcliffe described that punt into the corner as a pass from Kieran Brown. It was a long, hopeful ball, which Mark Harris made the most of. But embrace long ball. We love it.
Oh, well, one of us around this table certainly loves it. They defended brilliantly. They were so good. Jamie Cumming in goal had a pretty easy afternoon, really. Yeah. And Norwich didn't really have a chance until the 80th minute. There may be factors involved in why Norwich struggled, but we'll give Oxford their flowers, because the whole back line of Long, Moore, Brown and Bennett were terrific. A special shout for Cameron Brannigan, who we all know is a talented player anyway, but he was unbelievable here. It was a great showing all round by Oxford, and if this is, what they're going to bring to the Championship this season, they'll definitely cause plenty of teams problems, without a doubt, based off this, won't they?
Yeah, they will. I mean, I know we've had a week or a couple of weeks of making big predictions, but Cameron Brannigan, I think, will be one of the most outstanding performers in the Championship this season. He will get goals. He will have such a huge influence on Oxford, where we'll probably see clubs offering £5-10 million for him in January. I think he's got that potential to really kick on, and I think the addition of Will Vaulks into the midfield has allowed Cameron Brannigan to just release himself a little bit. He was always a deeper sitter, but he's taken on that role as a number 8, or he looked like he took the role on as number 8 in that Norwich game, and he got a goal, really well taken goal. And as I say, I think if you make certain tweaks like that to your team, it just again nullifies that opinion that Des Buckingham does have a little bit about him tactically, and he showed that with this game, showed that with the signings that he's made in terms of Will Vaulks, and obviously getting more out of Cameron Brannigan as well.
Oxford have got a tricky trip to Coventry coming up next, but then 3 very winnable games coming up afterwards, so don't be surprised to see Oxford with a few points to their name after the first month of the season. Very disappointing performance from Norwich. They looked really, really flat here, and of course Oxford nullified them completely, but surprisingly flat. They weren't helped by Johnny Rowe withdrawing from the squad hours before the game. He has been linked with a move away, with Leeds and Marseille sniffing around him. The new Norwich manager, Johannes Hoff-Thorup, wasn't happy. He said after the game it was too late a decision, and it affected the team's performance. He also said he'll have a conversation with Rowe about what happened. Don't want to say it was completely down to Johnny Rowe, this poor performance, Justin, but it's not a good look for him, is it? Pulling out of the squad hours before. What do you think about all this?
I mean, hours before, did he travel with the team in the hotel? Because it was a 12:30 kickoff. It's not an hour trip, is it, to Oxford from Norwich? I assume they stayed in a hotel. Did he just not turn up to the team bus? It's such a weird scenario, isn't it? It's such a weird scenario, and it does throw Thorup under the bus a little bit, because he's planned for Johnny Rowe to be in his team, in his squad. And you lose Gab Sara on the eve of the season starting. You lose an attacking spark there, and then you lose another hours before a game. It's really disappointing, and obviously it's not the reason why Norwich lost, but I would expect it to have played a big role, because that game plan may have had to have changed.
Yeah, I think Thorup is actually underplaying it, because taking out a player as good as Johnny Rowe just hours before the game for a pretty flimsy reason, it is obviously it's going to affect things. I think it's crap from Rowe, really, because hours before a game in particular is really bad, especially when it doesn't seem like he's heading out the door imminently, does it? No. Yes, it looks like he's probably leaving before the window closes, but reports seem to indicate there's still a lot of work that needs to be done before a deal is struck, and then until then he's a contracted Norwich City player, isn't he? That's the really important thing here. And look, Sammy Schmodix at Blackburn, he's been linked with a move away, hasn't he? He played on Friday, scored, but Johnny Rowe decided that he didn't want to. So it's pretty embarrassing for him, I think. Norwich fans aren't happy, understandably so. And I also don't see what he's really gained from all this either, apart from really hindering his own teammates, which just makes the situation all the more bamboozling. So, yeah, interesting to see how this one plays out over the next few days. Justin, let's have a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Derby's first game back in the Championship and a crazy game at the Den. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. It's now time for us to check out our Second Tier multiple with SBK got on. Our first one of the season, of course. It includes our game of the week from last Friday, as well as Justin and I's 2 bankers from that same episode. We had Leeds, Middlesbrough and Sheffield Wednesday all to win. If Brendan Aronson scored that chance at the end, Justin, God's sake, our multiple would have come in. That's how close we have been. Unbelievable. But we'll be back with another multiple in this coming Friday's preview show with SBK. And hopefully Brendan Aronson doesn't let us down again next week. So, excellent starts for the two newly promoted sides to the Championship this season. Not so much for Derby County. They were thumped 4-2 away at Blackburn. 3-word reviews here for Blackburn. Matthew says Eustace's ruthless blues. Michael says Eustace substitution masterclass. We'll get on to Blackburn very shortly, Justin. Not a great return to the second tier for the Rams, though, Justin.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. I've gotten a fair amount of flack from supporters just for outlining my expectations for Derby this season, and I think this game was a microcosm of what I really expected. I was actually very surprised at how poor Derby were in transition, getting back, both getting back into shape and following an attack, and then just developing attacks didn't exist. Blackburn were good at it, so we'll get onto them. But I don't think they had to do a lot to score 4 goals. They created 5 big chances, but as I say, Derby just let them waltz through every time. They were constantly opened up down the right-hand side. Why this wasn't resolved, I don't know. 2 players were free on almost every Rovers attack. And for saying this Derby team was the best best defence in League One last season, both in terms of teams, chances conceded, goals conceded, chances conceded, everything. It didn't look like they'd ever played together before. It was quite remarkable.
Yeah, it was. To be fair, I thought they actually played quite well for periods of this game. It's just when they get the ball in an advanced area, they're like, oh, what do we do now? Oh, I know, let's put it out wide so we can send in our millionth cross of the day. Mm-hmm. It's no surprise, really, that Derby's 2 goals came from set pieces because they are strong at them. From open play, though, they really flattered to deceive, didn't they? And I fear that's going to be a real issue for them this season. And this is where the concerns with Paul Warne lie, aren't they? Just firing in cross after cross and scoring from the odd set piece may very well work when you're playing against the likes of Burton and Shrewsbury every week. But in the Championship, you need to be more clever. And I think that will leave them stuck, Justin.
Yeah, I think it will. But as I say, go back to the game, it was just... I think going forwards, they were genuinely clueless. They were genuinely clueless, and that's really what worries me. I mean, we've given Plymouth a fair amount of flack for looking very clueless with and without the ball, but Derby were exactly the same. They were really, really...
No, I don't think it was the same level as Plymouth. Justin, Plymouth were absolutely appalling. Derby weren't great, but they weren't as bad as Plymouth.
Well, no. I'm not saying generally as a performance, but going forwards, having an idea of going forwards.
No, I completely disagree with that. That's just wrong.
Okay, well, I feel that Derby had absolutely no clue going forwards.
They scored 2 goals
from set pieces, as you pointed out, and I think this is the issue that lies with Paul Warne. I think if you're looking to stay in the Championship, you need more than just set pieces. You have to create a team that are going to create.
I completely agree with that. But you're saying they were as clueless with the ball going forwards as Plymouth were. Plymouth were awful. Like they offered absolutely nothing going forwards, and Derby were by no means Barcelona or anything like that. But they still had chances from open play as well. They just weren't very good chances.
No, I'm generally speaking of it as to how clueless Derby were. Yes, they did get the ball into wide areas, and they did have a spark at times. But at no point did I feel Derby were going to score from open play. It's as simple as that. Set pieces were the route in, and the general cluelessness is what worries me. That's the overall point I'm making. And you need a manager there who's going to coach a team into creating chances. And I don't think Paul Warne, unfortunately, has been able to show that in any of his spells in the Championship so far.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. My fear is with Derby is that their survival hopes may depend entirely upon how long it takes them to pluck up the courage and get rid of Paul Warne. Obviously, I'm not expecting them to do it over the summer where they've just been promoted. But if Friday night is anything to go by, you can't be that one-dimensional all season and think this will keep us up, because it's just not going to work, is it? Yes, I know Derby don't have the greatest of squads and he's working with what he's got, but at the same time, he seems to be sucking all the life out of the bits of talent that they do have playing that way. And that's a big problem when as I say, all he seems to have in his mind is just cross it in, cross it in, cross it in. You need a lot more than that when you're playing in the Championship. A shout out for Aaron Cashin, who did 3 great tackles in the build-up to Blackburn's second goal, and they still scored. I haven't seen anything like it. Search it out if you haven't seen it already. It's absolutely mad. A great win for Blackburn, their biggest opening day win in 21 years, as a matter of fact. And I thought this was just your classic John Eustace win, Justin. Not necessarily keen to retain the ball, but when they did have it, they made it count. And boy, did they make it count.
Yeah, they were really good. They soaked up pressure and they were fast on the counter. The subs made an impact as well. I mean, the skill by Hayden Carter for the Vyman goal was brilliant. Selling 2 players like that in that position as a centre half is almost as good as scoring a goal, I think. So fair play to Carter for that. But I think the key thing with Blackburn is they played like exactly how I expected them to play. John Eustace's first win at home as well, which I think I knew that, but it still took me by surprise. But it was almost a very good away performance. But you're coming up against a team who you probably know are going to be slow, and they Blackburn, they tapped into that. They heard that. They exploited this space that Derby continued to leave, and he did it really well. The wing backs look dangerous as well for Blackburn, which is another key thing for John Eustace. They look really sharp all over the place. Lewis Travis looks revitalised as well, which was good.
Yeah, it was good. It was all really good. I'm not sure how they would fare coming up against better opposition than Derby, but as far as opening days go, you can't really complain with that. I agree with you. The 2 wing backs were fantastic. Callum Britton is someone who I just rate so highly. New signing Maktar Gay. He looks like a lot of fun. Classic big lump up front. God, I can see him committing quite a few fouls this season. I think that's fair to say. But if you're a fan of smashing it up to 6'4" strikers, then you're going to love this guy. Yuki Ahashi, another new signing, took his goal really well. And nice to see Sammy Schmods contribute despite him probably leaving this summer. Some people can learn a lot from that, can't they? Overall, a solid 3 points. Plenty to build upon for Blackburn. Really, really good showing. Let's go to the Den, where there was a meeting between 2 sides we've tipped to struggle this season, Justin, Millwall and Watford. But it was the Hornets who ran out the 3-2 winners after a 90th minute winner from Mileta Rajovic. 3-word reviews here from Watford fans. Magic Paredes says, well, that's surprising. 773 Southside on our Patreon says, lucky is an understatement. He said lucky is an understatement, as opposed to lucky is an understatement, to keep it to 3 words. A very strange game, this. Like a really strange game. Watford went 2-0 up until the 74th minute, having scored directly from a corner and then an unbelievable free kick by Georgi Chakvetadze. In that 74 minutes, they didn't offer much of a threat at all. It's absolutely bizarre, but they were 2-0 up. Meanwhile, Millwall hit the post twice, had one cleared off the line, and were much the better side. They eventually got one back, then a late equaliser, and then Watford instantly went up the other end and scored a winner after a pass which was deflected towards Mileta Rajovic. Once it was just a weird game, Justin.
Yeah, weird game, really weird game. But you know what? Watford will run away from the Den with that because it's going to be a hard place to play. Neil Harris has spoke a lot about it in pre-season about wanting to make it a fortress once more, make it a really ugly, horrible place to come. And he's going to do that, but this was an ugly performance from Watford, but it works in their favour weirdly. They ran with that look very, very quickly, very, very hard, and I have no idea how they came away with 3 points. I honestly don't. I think that's the only thing I can really take away from this game is, the looks on your side. The George Honeyman clearing off the line, he had 2 good chances with that. The looks on your side when it doesn't go in. And George Saville hitting the post as well. Oh my God, there's just time and time again where you're thinking Millwall got this. They'll take control, but they didn't. And the Olympico from Ed Kiembe, whether he meant it or not is another thing. Olympico is he scores straight from a corner. It's football talk, football European talk. You should get to know.
I have never heard this before in my life. I didn't realise it was a thing.
Yeah, down with the kids, Ryan. Come on.
Yeah,
but it just contributed to a really weird game because he scored directly from a corner. It's so rare it happens. As a key contribution. But again, I think as a Millwall, assessing Millwall, I would take more positives and negatives away from that.
Yeah, I would as well. I think I don't really know what to make of this game. It was just so weird. I've seen a lot of neutrals say that this shows Millwall are in trouble this season, which might end up being true, but how often are they going to concede directly from a corner and then a 30-yard free kick and then a goal which was deflected straight onto the opposition striker's head? I don't really know what to make of this from a Millwall perspective. I think it's even more difficult analysing this for Watford because, well, as you say, it's fair to say they were very fortunate here, weren't they?
Yeah, you literally grab the 3 points and you run away as fast as you can because I'm not saying Watford didn't deserve it. I think any team who comes away with a win deserves the 3 points because they've worked hard in some capacity to get those 3 points. But in terms of the balance of chances, Millwall should have been home and hosed. In terms of quality of chances, Millwall should have been home and hosed. They weren't. Watford took theirs however way they wanted to, and he did. A bit of praise for Rivich as well because he's taken a bit of stick over pre-season, but I think that goal showed that he's got the sharpness in the box to be in the right place at the right time, and he took his goal really well.
Yeah, he did take it well, in fairness to him. We'll give him his flowers for that. But it's interesting, Justin, because obviously we've been giving Watford a lot of talk recently about how troubling their current plight is, particularly with this squad. Well, who's chimed in? None other than Sir Elton John. He posted on his Instagram saying it's time for Watford to sign some players. And, it's desperate when old Elton's getting involved.
Well, he's right, isn't he? If they're going to still be standing at the end of the season...
Yeah, it's good.
Can't sacrifice a season in Championship. It's too much risk because your time can be fleeting in the second tier. It can disappear like a candle in the wind.
Unbelievable showing there. Unbelievable. It turns out Josh Maja's not the only one who scored a hat-trick this weekend. Justin Peach is on form as well. Yeah, hopefully Watford do sign more players because they can't go breaking his heart, Justin.
There we go.
Oh, dear me. There were tributes to Maja Sarkic for this game, it is worth saying. The Millwall goalkeeper who died over the summer at the age of 26. There was a minute's silence, and then the Watford fans unfurled a banner saying R.I.P. Maja Sarkic, which was a lovely gesture, wasn't it? It's not something that Watford had to do. They could have just, paid their respects in most usual ways, but for them to go that extra yard, I think it was very much appreciated by the Millwall fans, so well done to them. Let's go to Staffordshire, where the Robins Rocket has had a false start as Coventry lost 1-0 away at Stoke. Three-word reviews here for Stoke. James says Coventry miles ahead. Yes, thank you, James. Wayne says good, steady start. CCFCS on the Patreon says another slow start. Twigs says lacklustre, disjointed, sloppy. Paul says starting next week. Of course, Stoke being Justin Peach's dark horse for the season, he's fairly happy after this result. So come on then, Justin, what you got for me?
What have I got for you? I wanted to make a comment on the Robins Rocket falling as flat as a North Korean missile test. That's as well as it's gone for Coventry in terms of the start. But I think it was a great win for Stoke. It wasn't a game full of quality. I think that's the key thing. But I think probably more surprised at how flat Coventry were. They were really passive. They lacked quality when they eventually gained control of the game in the second half. But I think Stoke actually, in terms of pound for pound player-wise, I thought they edged it in terms of the moments. And obviously, Lewis Baker coming on in the 76th minute, scoring 2 minutes later. I think it's props to him and props to Steven Schumacher for making that change. But yeah, I just think Coventry were just flat. Gave the control to Stoke in the first half. They ran with it a little bit, and took the goal when they needed to. That's probably what you can take away from the game.
Yeah, I did watch large parts of this one because I was trying to watch this and the Leeds game at the same time. Unsurprisingly, the Leeds game got more attention out of me in the end. But what I did see of this was a surprising amount of Stoke being the much better side. Because, as you say, Coventry were really poor in this game. They lacked control. Every time they ventured forward, it fizzled out into nothing. It was a surprisingly bad showing. And it makes me worry about two things, really. Whether they're able to, whether we're about to see another slow start for the third season running for Coventry, and two, how much of an over-reliance there may be on Ben Sheaf. Because this is a really talented squad, but Ben Sheaf really makes everything tick, and without him here, they were so poor in midfield. Keep in mind that it's not set in stone that he's going to stay either. So, considering how high we've been on Coventry these past few weeks, it's definitely a performance which provides more concern than encouragement. It's got to be said. But it is a marathon, not a sprint. Can't forget that, Justin.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I do think. I know Coventry had a couple of knocks in pre-season. Obviously, had your right start on the bench. Ben Sheaf was missing, but I think if you recruit as extensively as Coventry have in the last 12 months, I don't think there's a hiding place if key individuals are missing. You need players to step in. I think Stoke offered a lot of physicality as well, and probably Jamie Allen was probably not the midfielder you needed in that position. You needed more of a Ben Sheaf, which means Coventry probably have to go out and sign a Ben Sheaf-like player, whether they're going to replace Ben Sheaf or make sure there's an understudy there, whether it's a loan signing or not. But it's just that physicality was lacking in the middle, gave Stoke the impetus, and as I say, they took advantage of it.
They may be hoping that Victor Torp is that Ben Sheaf-like player, but I mean, how...
But more of a ball player, though.
I'm not sure they're necessarily the same player. I suppose the question is really, how do you get a player like Ben Sheaf who can do just about everything and is as good as he is? It's very difficult to find, isn't it? Particularly with just a handful of weeks left of the transfer window. So, yeah, they'll be holding on to him for dear life that he can stay, and then probably wrapping him in bubble wrap as well to make sure that he stays fit throughout the season. If this performance is anything to go by, we'll give Stoke the flowers as well. It is a marathon, not a sprint, Justin. But I think it's even more impressive, this win, that they did it without their two key players, really. Bae-Jun Ho was missing for this. Rauterberger did play, but was fairly ineffective. Was completely absent, for being straight to the point. But I think that's the most encouraging thing for me here, that two players who we've been saying are going to be absolutely massive for Stoke this season, they didn't really need them for this massive win.
Yeah, I know. I disagree a little bit with the Berger point. Yes, I think didn't offer too much, but he's a ball-winning player who's probably played slightly out of position in what was a very physical midfield. They needed to win the physical battle, and Stoke did. So Berger did play a role in that, without offering too much with the ball. But they relied on sparks. They relied on moments. Lewis Baker came on. It gave a bit of a technical edge when maybe legs were a little bit tired. And that again, as I mentioned 2 minutes ago, props to Schumacher for making the right sub for that. Emery Tegel as well, leading the line, a youngster leading the line, I think is a key thing, because one of the things Stoke definitely need is I wouldn't say a goal scorer. They need someone with a little bit of physicality up there. But Tegel really did run the line, incredibly well. And having a fairly inexperienced forward line and him leading the line as well as he did, I think is a key thing. So yeah, more players are contributing for Stoke, and that's a huge factor.
A Josh Maja hat-trick saw West Brom win 3-1 away at QPR. 3-word reviews here for West Brom. Jamie says, pretty in pink. Jay says, Maja. DT says, Josh Maja, Ballon d'Or. Well, we have been making our predictions in the last 2 weeks, Justin. Neither of us predicted top goal scorer to be Josh Maja, so that's one in the eye for us, isn't it?
I actually think it's a nice reminder of the natural goal-scoring ability that Josh Maja offers. He is a finisher. I know he's had a few years where he's been here and there. He's struggled with injury a lot, but he's a poacher, and he showed that with his goal. All three of his goals were between the posts. They were in and around the 6-yard box. He's a man you'd hate to play on the playground with because he's a selfish goal hanger, to put it bluntly. But you know what? In a professional scenario, you love him, and that's what he brings. He's a goal scorer. He's got that ability. If he can stay fit and stay confident, double figures is on the horizon for old Match.
Yeah, well, he hasn't got far to go in that regard now, has he? Particularly because he may be the only one playing for Stoke, playing for West Brom this season. Although they have got Devante Cole now, haven't they? I'm not actually sure he got a hat-trick here, to be honest, Justin.
Yeah.
Everyone's given the second goal to him, but it looks to me like it's actually an own goal by Jimmy Dunn. So we'll see whether the dubious goals committee, or whatever they're called, end up giving him that goal or not. But look, Maja only started one game last season, made a fair few appearances off the bench, only had the one goal. I think it's fair to say they needed to strengthen up front. But based off this performance, maybe they don't. I mean, without taking anything away from him, the total distance of all three goals must have been about 10 yards. But the first goal was a really well taken header, and you've got to be in the right place at the right time. And he particularly was for that third one, wasn't he? So, not sure if this is a sign of things to come with him, but it's certainly a very, very good start. He did score 16 goals in the French second tier a couple of seasons ago. So, who knows? Maybe he'll surprise us this season and score quite a few. but a great showing for him, and well done to him as well, I suppose. I don't know where this has come from all of a sudden, Justin, but when I was watching this game yesterday, again, I was like flicking through the channels, my partner came into the room, and they were talking about, West Bromwich Albion ahead at Queen's Park Rangers, and she sits down next to me and says, "What is an Albion?" And initially I was like, "What are you talking about?" Then I was like, I actually don't know. I actually don't know what an Albion is. What is an Albion?
What is an Albion? Yeah.
Considering there's quite a few teams called Albion, I don't know what an Albion is, and I've never questioned it before until now.
No, I mean, Queen's Park Rangers, for example, you imagine they are Rangers on Queen's Park, guarding the park. City, United's, togetherness, United. What is an Albion?
What is an Albion? Athletic. We know what that means, because football is an athletic sport. What is an Albion?
County.
Yeah, county's a county. You're absolutely right. So it's just something I'd never questioned before until my partner gave me a whole new perspective on football. Moving on, a disappointing start to the season for QPR and the Marty Party. Their new striker Zancella, who they signed for £2 million, has been getting scathing reviews for his performance here. QPR fans not very impressed with him, I think that's fair to say. Didn't have a shot, only had 15 touches in the whole game. Marty Cifuentes defended him afterwards, backed him, saying he will come good, but we'll see. It was a tough first game for Cella in particular, and QPR in general, I suppose. They are reportedly close to making a big signing, though, Justin. 21-year-old Karamoko Dembele, once tipped for big things at Celtic, had an excellent season at Blackpool last year. Reports say he's joining QPR for €3 million. I think this is a really exciting move, Justin.
Yeah, really exciting move. QPR need an extra spark in that final third, and I think Dembele's going to provide that. As you mentioned, 8 goals and 13 assists for Blackpool last season. A team that was flirting with the playoffs for the League One playoffs for the entire season, so they weren't sort of running. It wasn't a team running away with the league. There had to be ingenuity from Dembele in that team. He's just 21 as well. It's a good signing. He's a good age. QPR need that spark. Dembele's going to provide it, or hopefully will provide it.
Yeah, well, he's been one of the most hotly sought after players in the whole division this summer. I've seen so many clubs be linked with him. It's quite remarkable. And a lot seem to want him on loan, but QPR have gone out and got him permanently, which is really, really exciting, isn't it? It feels like a big statement move by QPR. A 21-year-old getting 8 goals and 13 assists in League One is very impressive. And we were saying with QPR how there's this sort of glaring hole in their team on the wing. Mm-hmm. This is some way to fill it, isn't it? So an attacking three of Dembele, Anderson and Cher, that's very dangerous, isn't it? That is something to fear. Even more so if Zancella turns out to be a good player, but I'm not sure based off that debut. Maybe it was just a bad game, who knows? So yeah, very bold move by QPR, but a thrilling one, got to be said. On Monday night, we've got a huge game, Justin, to round off the opening weekend of the Championship season. Luton v Burnley. Not very often we get a old humdinger like this on the opening weekend, but I'm not complaining, Justin. This looks like it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, I mean, you've got two teams who've just come down from the Premier League for starters, so there's going to be a little bit of hype around that. But I mean, who's Scott Parker going to field? How many team coaches are they going to bring down? Is it going to fit? Is it going to fit down the tight streets around Kenilworth Road? Is Scott Parker going to wear a cardigan? There are so many things to think about in this game, and that's without even talking about the football. So if you've got that trepidation there, and after what I've just said, then my God, the football's going to deliver.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to get down to Luton with 38 players in tow. Have to get like a triple-decker bus or something like that.
Triple-decker bus.
Yeah.
Or the bus on Harry Potter. The one that sort of changes in size. That's a really niche reference.
Or that's a good point actually. Or like what's one of those army helicopters where it's got 2 rotator blades? What are they called?
Oh, I have no idea.
No, like just something massive like that, and
just
all the players parachute in or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the only way they can get all those players down. But you're right, it's fascinating to see who Scott Parker's actually going to choose from this team. We, of course, will be doing a second-tier reacts episode to that game as soon as it finishes on Monday night. So stay tuned for that, and it'll be in your podcast feeds probably in Tuesday morning, or if you're willing to stay up late on Monday night, it might be in then as well. Who knows? Justin, let's do the polls. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter. First time this season that we've done the polls, of course, but we're giving the listeners 3 questions on Twitter that we want to get their thoughts on. If you want to get involved, make sure you stick around on Twitter every Sunday afternoon, and we'll pull out those polls there and then. The first question we asked was this: who are you backing to win the Championship this season? Burnley, Leeds, Luton, someone else? I'm assuming you're saying Luton, Justin, considering you back them in your league table predictions.
Based on the opening day games and the level of carried awayness I'm going with Stoke.
I knew you were going to say that. 35% of people said Leeds United. 18% said Luton. 15% said Burnley. 32% said somebody else. Do you want to hear some of the replies, Justin?
Yeah, go on.
In fact, you know what it is? It's just everyone saying their own team, which is completely unsurprising. Here's a Millwall fan saying it's our time. Sheffield Wednesday fan saying we'll take the title now, lads. So I'm glad everyone's approaching this with
the level of seriousness we were asking for, yeah.
And what's been the goal of the weekend in the Championship? We've had some beauties this opening weekend, haven't we, Justin? Chatford-Tadze for Watford, Hamer for Sheffield United, Lang for Portsmouth, Jamal Lowe for Sheffield Wednesday. Which one are you going for?
I'm going to go with the Hamer goal against Sheffield United. It was beautiful.
That was a beauty. I would probably go with the Chatford-Tadze one. I think that free kick was absolutely sublime.
I've seen like 3 different angles of that as well. Fans recording it behind the goal. It gets better.
He's so far out. He's so far out. It's remarkable. 35% of people, though, said Callum Lang's goal for Portsmouth against Leeds. 26% of people said Hamer. 22% said Lowe. It's a really good team goal, that. If you watch it from start to finish, really good team goal. 17% said Chatford-Tadze. I think he's been a bit hard done by there. And finally, what would you rather do? Run a marathon or sprint 1 mile non-stop? This is, of course, because the theme of this episode is it's a marathon, not a sprint. So what would you rather do, Justin?
I'll ask you the question. Have you ever sprinted more than 12 yards?
12 yards, probably. How long's a 5-a-side pitch?
It's not long. Have you ever run 5K?
Absolutely not. Actually, I have. I have when it was lockdown and I was like pretty fit. I think it was okay, but my fitness levels have dropped quite significantly since then.
I'd rather run a marathon.
That's up to you. I'm not sure I would agree. I think I'd rather just sprint 1 mile non-stop and just get it over and done with, because a marathon, I can't run. Simple as that. But sprinting, I'll just get the pain over and done with. 60% of people said sprint 1 mile non-stop. 40% of people said run a marathon. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Second Tier podcast, the weekend edition, where we've rounded up the first weekend of the Championship season. What a weekend it has been as well. Patreon subscribers, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we're calling, Justin,
Zamora Time.
Yes, that was your idea. I'll give you full credit for that.
Was.
That was such a good name for our extended edition of the Second Tier Weekend Show. So Zamora Time is coming up very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking about Sheffield United signing Tyrese Campbell, plus 2 other attackers potentially heading through the door. How long Sunderland should hold on to Jack Clark for, and Tony Mowbray's lovely appearance at Middlesbrough. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora Time every single Sunday. Head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back again on Tuesday to react to the Luton v Burnley game on Monday night. So we look forward to bloody seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.